2 to 3 minutes for the preparation time. So first is the warm-up session. This part is not being assessed, right? This part will not be assessed, for example, but you have to understand that you can ask the patient, the interrogator, about the pattern of the exam. You can ask the patient about the pattern of the exam, like what we can have. We can also see, let's say, it will help the patient to relax. They can ask you interview-related question, previous work experience or future plan, and so on. But there is no grading for this part. Then we can see there we have 2 cards. It will be assessed. You can ask any question before the role play cards to clarify your concern, right? Then we can see that we have the structure of the speaking. In the role play card, let's say, they will demonstrate as a real-time patient, and you have to act as a doctor. Acting, I'm using a negative connotation for your better understanding, right? Because you need to be in the scenario before you can start your consultation. You need to be in the scenario, like how would you start the card, like type of question you'll ask from the patient. We'll discuss each and everything in detail. So you have to see that time distribution is also important because there are different tasks you need to achieve in time. You can make the notes, during the time. You can make the notes during the time, for example. And importantly, let's say, you can ask any question. It's not important for you to make an eye contact during OET. However, we do appreciate if you can. There are a few things in the card: setting, history, and the background information. These are the things. The task fulfillment is also important. Like you have to go for the inquiry, explanation, advice, assurance, and reassurance. Then the frequently asked question, use the name of interlocutor to address during time the role play. You can refer him as sir, madam as well. But it's better not to call them sir, madam. It's better to call by the name during the session. Followed by, you can say, these are some of the things, such as to understand the setting, to understand the scenario, that new versus known patient, what relevant background details are being given, and how you can utilize them in your speaking consultation. Your medical history or social history is important. Your patient concern, right? What is the patient mood? Either he's angry, in hurry, cooperative, depressed, and so on, right? If you can see there, you have to see these things. It's very important for you to understand the scenario. And accordingly, you have to design your consultation. First of all, try your level best to manage the time in such a way that you can complete your task. However, if you won't be able to complete the task just because you remain patient focused, is totally fine. The components of the speaking role play card, or the skill that you have to demonstrate, is to show the inquiry related skills, the questions, which may include open and closed-ended question that will further explain deep in the lecture. Explanation in the layman language, not the medical term to be used. Even the vomiting should not be used. We can use throwing up. Advice, for example, if there is any, you have to give to the patient. Educate the patient, assure, reassure, and persuade the patient to share his feeling or thought, and justify your explanation at the same time. So these are some of the skills on the line of which you need to work on. Now we have the clinical skills. First of all, these are the things that they'll assess. These are the skills that they will assess. For example, first and foremost is to have the personal relationship building skills. What we have in the personal relationship building skills, we can see there to start the card as per the appropriateness. According to the appropriateness, you can start the card. That is followed by attentiveness. You must show your active listening skills. You have to show your active listening skills at the same time. You must be non-judgmental in your response. I will discuss each and everything in detail. Then we have the empathy skill. So these are the 4 skills in the relationship building skills that you must be equipped with in order to have a good score in your speaking, right? Okay. So this is something that you have to see in the card. Then we have patient perspective. In term of patient perspective, explore the patient ideas or concern in term of patient perspective. Pick up the patient cue is also important. Design your consultation with reference to patient response, right? Design your consultation with reference to patient response. It means that the nature of the patient is important. If he's talkative, reluctant, accordingly, you have to design your consultation. What we can say about the ideas or the concern of the patient or expectation, because at time patient will be in conflict with you, or there might not be any way out from the conversation. From that point, you need to explore the patient concern if there is any, right? Similarly, for the ideas as well, if you are concerned about the, like patient perspective, you have to explore the patient ideas, what he's thinking about the specific circumstances or situation. And information gathering skills, that is the third point. In the information gathering skills, first of all, it's your set of open and closed-ended question. We'll be also discussing that question in detail, right? So set of open and closed-ended question. We have to see, you can say, a variety of question can be asked, either open and closed-ended question, followed by the compounding. We should not have the compounding in question. Do not ask compound question, one question at a time. Then summarize and encourage the patient to contribute. Then we have information providing skills. In the information providing skills, establish what the patient know. It's important for you to understand that you need to explore the patient knowledge and concern what you know. Now, sequencing of the information is also important. You need to sequence the interview as per the given sequence with the help of cohesive devices. And there must be natural pauses. And use the cohesive devices when you are organizing the information. Encourage the patient as well to contribute, right? So these are the clinical skills in general. I explain it to you, followed by the explanation of these skills, right? Followed by the explanation of the skills. First of all, how to start the card. Greeting, like the way you start, it's appropriate in term of not only language, but also the tone. Now, tone would play a major role in the speaking, because most of the statements, the tone or the temperature of the language will be just defined by the tone. Normally, if we have a normal circumstances, either first or second encounter, we must have a high welcoming tone. If we have a normal circumstances, we must have a high welcoming tone. And in case if it's a first or second encounter and if it's needed, like the situation demands you to address your tone accordingly, we can have the low tone or a state of anxiousness. Then the language part. In the language part, we have to have the relevant language according to the scenario. So I'll explain it in detail in the given three possible encounter one can have in the speaking. So first of all, if it's a normal scenario, like there is nothing serious and patient came here for, let's say, a minor headache, or so we can start normally. Hello, Mr. Andrew, please come and have a seat. Let's say, or Mr. Mark, how you have been? Let's say. So this is a kind of start that we can use with high tone, with welcoming tone, right? Then we have a second encounter, and in the second encounter, if it's a breaking bad news, despite the fact you can see with reference to the language component, we are using the same statement, but just the difference in tone. The language component remain the same, but how to differentiate if it's the second, because the second encounter need to be started with the tagging question, as we have done here. So the second encounter, we are starting with the tagging question, but your tone will differentiate the scenario. If we have a breaking bad news type of thing, so we can say, hello, Mr. James, if I'm not wrong, but we need to work on the tone. Hello, James, if I'm not wrong, today you're here to collect your camera test report, right? With low tone at the end. Now, this part of the sentence will be intonated from the low tone. So it kind of descending tone even in the sentence. However, if you are having a second encounter and if it's a good news, we can have ascending tone, and specifically it would be high in the last part of the sentence. So we can have ascending or descending tone, depends upon the, you can say, your scenario. Okay. So according to the scenario, we can use the ascending or descending tone. Anyhow. So followed by, okay. So followed by, you can say, followed by the criteria, you can see, we can see the next task. So we have the next step, that establish the rapport of the patient. So first of all, you can see there, we have to see that establishing the rapport. That's a nice shirt. This is your rapport. Let's say nice shirt, for example, is the rapport. What a wonderful weather is the rapport, right? Would you like to have a glass of water or coffee? It's basically your rapport building skills. So if it's a scenario, you can see, yeah, the latte as well. You can ask someone a glass of water, a cup of coffee. Okay, these are some of the questions that you can use in the statement. Okay, to show your skills. If it's if okay, if it's your first encounter, it's the second encounter. Accordingly, we can select scenario. Then you can see there, uh, we can have open-ended question. Let's say, how can I help you? Is open-ended question. What bring you over here is open-ended question, right? These are some of the open-ended question that you can see in the scenario. So we have open-ended question followed by the closed-ended question in the task that you have to ask, right? So you can use, let's say, how can I help you? Or I just have gone through your file and I can understand that you're having this problem for blah blah time. But can you tell me in your own words what could be the possible reason? Okay. So you have to use the open and then close-ended question from the patient for the better understanding of the scenario, right? Okay. So afterward, we can see that if you can see when you ask open-ended question, okay, when you ask the open-ended question, So after that, we have to see, you need to check the patient response. If he's the talkative patient, you have to provide him immediate empathy. If he's talkative patient, right? And if he's not a talkative and reluctant, we can move on accordingly. So according to the scenario, we have to decide. So if we have a talkative patient, so we can immediately have the empathy. First of all, let's say a common mistake after listening to the conversation from the patient, like open-ended question. Doctors, they normally, or healthy healthcare professional, they normally make this mistake. They said, okay, then they took a pause, then they move on toward empathy. Oh, Mark, it's totally understandable that you're having headache for 3 months. So it's better to listen to the patient concern, and right after that, rather than saying or taking pause, you have to show the empathy. However, if the patient is reluctant, he just say, I have pain in my head. You can say, Mark, in order to better understand your condition, I'd like to ask some more question. Can I? Then we can ask the close, and we can ask some more question. Can you tell me a bit more about your problem? And can you just bit more about it? So these are the, you can say, the close-ended, open-ended question if the patient was reluctant. So after that, when the patient will tell you in details, then we can go for the close-ended question. However, while giving empathy, you have to see, while giving empathy, you need to see, for example, that, uh, while giving empathy, you have to see, for example, that you should show the active listening skills at the same time. So not only that, you have to show the patients the empathy, but also you have to show the active listening skills at the same time. Okay. So after that, you can say we have to have, you can say, next start like close-ended question. Now in close-ended question, we need to see that there are some range of question you can ask, starting from WH type of question, where we can have the answer yes or no. Okay, here we can have the answer in yes or no. These are the closed-ended question, where you can have the answer in just yes or no. Okay, but to design this question, you can use the variety of sentences, let's say, that has been written in front of you, how long you have been having this pain, or when the pain started. It's the same sentence with different approaches. Did you take any medication for that? Past simple tense, but we did. Have you ever had? Present perfect. Is there any associated symptom? Present simple. Do you have? Present simple. So we can add the range of structure to enhance your grammatical expression, and at the same time, it's more focused toward toward the task. We can also introduce the either or question in our information gathering skills, such as, was it like a tight band, or was it more throbbing in nature? This is your either or question. We can also have a statement-based question, which include the declarative statement, such as, we can have rising tone at the end in this statement. We still got the headache now. Let's say we have a high tone over here, right? We still have the headache now, for example. We have the high tone over here. Okay. So afterward, you can see that there is no weakness on any body of side, right? So we can have the high tone over here. There's no weakness on any side of your body. We have the high tone over here. Okay. So we can see, then we have tagging question. These questions are usually asked to verify healthcare practitioner, what they suspect. Let's say we can normally use in second encounter. If I'm not wrong, today you are here to collect your blood test report, right? Or similarly, if it's written in the history of the card, like you are not any medication, are you? We can confirm from the patient. And you have a positive family history, have you? So This is the tagging question what you suspect, and you have the answer in the question. Normally, ellipse is being used in by the native speaker to shorten their response. Let's say if they're talking about the pain, they can say just is it on one side of your head rather than saying the pain is on one side of the head. In the continuation, they can use the ellipse in the question to shorten the answer. Similarly, when we have to clarify, or about like sorry, when you have to ask the patient the sensitive details, those sensitive details should be asked by the help of, you can say, a personal question by taking a permission. Now we need to ask or take the permission from the patient, right? You need to take the sense, like you can say, permission from the patient. First of all, let's say, can I ask you some personal question? When you ask this question from the patient, you need to ask the personal question, right, from the patient. Anyhow, then you can see there we have to incorporate the tenses as well in the task. Maybe past tense, present perfect tense, or present continuous tense. The variety of sentences should be used in the grammar portion, right? Okay. Afterward, you can see there, uh, this is the approach that we can follow normally. This is the approach that you can follow normally, let's say. First of all, you can see there, we have, like open, then close, like you are confining, be more precise. We have to more precise the information, that how can you be more precise, and using the open-ended question, this structure should be followed. Okay. Now we can, before we can move on toward the linguistic skills, if you have any question, please feel free to ask me. Now we can see there the linguistic skills. First of all is the fluency. Just a minute, please. Now in the linguistic skills, we need to see how fluent we are. Now, as per the fluency, we have to go by. First of all, if there is few hesitation, and you would be able to speak at length without hesitation. Then formality, how to start the card. You must not use any medical term, right? You have to avoid the jargons as well. Not using any medical term. The jargon should be avoided, and your start should be appropriate. You must not have any false start, right? You must not have any false start, and it's the clear pronunciation. You should have an ability to start the card as per the setting. However, you need to learn the intelligibility, like tone management, right? It must have the non-intrusive accent. As long as your accent is understandable, it's totally fine. And your intelligibility or the word stress is also important. There must be a variety of grammar expression, tenses, sentences, and to cohesive devices at the same time. So now you can see, if this is your card and there is a background information to this card, the patient is a parent of 10-month-old baby boy, and he has come to see you and a child is suffering from, let's say, gastroenteritis. Okay. And patient appears to be anxious. However, child has no evidence. He's passing urine regularly and playing on the floor. So this is the setting part. This is the history component. And this is the task that has to be achieved. Right? So as you can see, the parent of 10-month-old baby boy has come to see you. We have to start like understand that patient is anxious. So accordingly, we can start a card after introduction. Hello, my name is Blind Blah. What happened to you? You seems to be a bit concerned. Is everything all right? According to the scenario, you have to start the card. Right? After that, you need to go for the inquiry, like open and close ended question. When you ask about a child symptom, after inquiry part, you can explore the patient expectation. What do you think what it could be? And then confirm the diagnosis, but in the layman language. And then you have to provide assurance to the patient. Reassurance to the patient, right? Explain the inappropriateness of any medication when the patient asks you and suggest him glucose solution. So let's say, this is the script of the card. When you greet the patient, let's say, how would you greet the patient? And hello, my name is, let's say, Dr. Andrew. I'm a doctor in this clinic. If I'm not wrong, I'm talking to Mr. James. You must be father of, let's like that. Accordingly, we can start the sentence. And he was anxious, so we have to show that thing in the first line, right? If there is a normal response the patient had given you, so we have to go for the empathy and active listening skill together. It must be quite worrisome for you that your son has had loose motion and has been throwing up. So, right after the main concern, we just have to show empathy and show your active listening skills. Then, close-ended question: how many episodes of loose motion he has had? These are the close-ended questions that you have to ask. Also, we can go for the you can say grammatical range when you'll be asking this question beside the specific question. If your card allows you to go for the examination, you can. Otherwise, you should not need to examine. We have to see and examine the patient perspective. Let's say explore the patient perspective. What do you think what it could be? Or if the patient is concerned, you have to explore the patient concern and address the patient concern accordingly. Patient will be concerned about the hydration. You have to address at the same time. As you can see, again, it's a cute thing. Child is playing happily. So you have to show the patient he's not dehydrated. Right? And then the last point before we can proceed, you need to ask the patient, what do you think, what it could be? And then you have to explain the diagnosis in the layman language, right? Explain the diagnosis in the layman language. After that, you should ask the patient the sign posture changes as you asked. You have to ask the patient, have I made myself clear? Not, are you getting me? On yourself, have I made myself clear? Do you want to ask any question? Or then we can move on to the next task. Let me show Mr. X child is active and has been passing urine normally. So encourage that he's not dehydrated. Encouraging sign, for example. Then ask for the clarity by exploring if there is any concern that remain unaddressed. And again, assure the patient regarding the need of medication. Right? And again, sign posture changes when you can move on toward the diet question. Patient may ask you about a diet, and so you can address about what you need to be done for the diet as well. Again, take for the clarity and ask the another question regarding if there is any concern if the patient is having. right? So these are some of the areas that we have discussed in the speaking part of the conversation. Now, the next thing is that I'd like to discuss with you is the information providing skills in detail that was not covered. So in the providing skills and the information gathering skills, beside open-ended question, one question at a time. Never ever interrupt the patient. Never raise your tone against the patient while you are gathering information and providing. Before you can start providing the information, you must ask the patient, what do you think, what it could be? And you have to sequence the interview as per the given sequence of the card. And pauses when giving information. You must have the natural pauses. Organize the information with the help of cohesive devices like first of all, secondly, and so on. And you need to encourage the patient to contribute, right? You need to encourage the patient to contribute in the scenario. So these are those skills that you can have in the scenario when the patient is coming to you for first time versus if the patient is coming to you for second time, right? And also you need to have the information providing skills. Establish what the patient know, take natural pauses, engage the patient, and sign posture changes mean you will always ask for the clarity. Have I made myself clear? Do you want to ask any question? Okay, if you don't have any question, we like to move on toward the treatment plan. Can I? These are the sign posture changes in your speaking consultation. So this is just a basic overview of the speaking with reference to one card practice. If you like to ask any question at the moment, please feel